There has been a spirit of arrogance over the American church, and I think it's time for a much needed reminder. It was Jesus who said, "Blessed are those who are poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Another translation says, "Blessed are those who are not spiritually arrogant." This is the very first beatitude, and the rest of the beatitudes hinge on this one. In other words, there is no blessing for those who lack recognition of their spiritual bankruptcy. Jesus is referring to the one who sees their spiritual bondage and knows that in himself, he's nothing before God. All he can do is cry out for mercy and depend on the Lord. No one can be a Christian without this spirit. A real Christian understands that they have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, and for that they deserve the death penalty. A real Christian understands that when they stand before the judgment seat of God, they will have nothing to say. When God leads us to see that we are debtors in his court, we can only plea for his grace and mercy. But somehow we all struggle to remember where we came from. Complete and utter blindness, headed for destruction, on track towards hell. And then Jesus saves us. We get saved, and then somewhere along the way we fall into complacency. We think we arrive, and then before we know it, we're proud and arrogant, and we think we're somehow above others. We begin to even condemn others and lose compassion for those who walk the road we once walked. We even find ourselves lacking love and compassion for those outside of Christ who are on their way to hell. You know, you never see any of Jesus' disciples exude this type of arrogance. They labeled themselves as slaves of Christ. They were humble, they were gentle, they were kind. They shared the heart of the Lord. They knew they brought no value to the world apart from Christ. And they all went to their death for the gospel message. They labored for the gospel even if it meant torture was coming their way. They were stoned, whipped, beheaded, killed by the sword, boiled in oil, all to share the hope of Christ with the lost. Yet here in America, there are some in the church who feel many in this world aren't worthy. See, the issue that we face here in America is this society urges us to develop every kind of spirit except poverty of spirit. Our nation is built on power, prestige, and pride. And it is that same spirit that has crept into the church and corrupted it. And it's on full display. I just want to warn you, church. A lack of poverty of spirit leads to spiritual ruin. And it's time that the church wakes up to this fact. We must repent and we must humble ourselves. We must get back to the basics and focus on evangelizing those who are far from Christ, no matter their skin color, no matter their belief system, or how they respond. None of that is our issue to worry about. Jesus said go. He commanded us to. This means it's not an option. But I will say this, without love for the lost and dying world, everything we do will be in vain.